You may sometimes come across messages that feel intensely personal, urgent, and emotionally charged. They can sound as if they are speaking directly into your life, warning you about hidden dangers, secret plans, or unseen forces working against you. In moments like that, it is natural for the mind to slow down, to pay closer attention, and to wonder if there is something important you are missing. But this is also the point where clarity matters most. When information arrives wrapped in fear, urgency, or mystery, it helps to remember that genuine truth does not need pressure to be believed. It does not rely on emotional shock, nor does it ask you to accept conclusions before you have had the chance to understand the facts. Real communication gives you space to think, to question, and to verify. Anything that pushes you to act immediately, without reflection, deserves careful scrutiny. A common pattern in misleading or manipulative messaging is the creation of invisible threats. These messages often suggest that something is happening behind the scenes, that people around you are secretly involved in plans you cannot see, or that events are already in motion without your knowledge. This style of communication is designed to create emotional urgency. It pulls your attention into fear, making it harder to think calmly or evaluate what is being said. But in real life, situations that truly affect you tend to show themselves through clear, observable facts. They can be discussed openly. They can be questioned directly. They do not rely on mystery or secrecy to gain importance. When something is real, it does not require you to fill in the blanks with imagination or anxiety. It is also important to understand how easily the mind can be influenced when it is presented with dramatic storytelling. Human beings are naturally responsive to narrative. When a message includes vivid scenes, hidden conversations, or dramatic discoveries, it activates curiosity and emotional involvement. This does not mean the content is true, it only means it is engaging. Emotional engagement is not the same as accuracy. In many cases, messages that claim hidden intentions or secret actions involving people you know are not based on verified information. Instead, they are structured to create suspicion and uncertainty. They may even encourage you to view ordinary relationships through a lens of doubt. This can be harmful because it replaces real communication with imagined scenarios. Once doubt is introduced without evidence, it can grow quickly and affect how you interpret everything around you. A healthy way to respond to such situations is to slow the process down. Instead of reacting immediately, give yourself time to step back mentally. Ask simple questions. What evidence is actually being presented? Can this information be verified independently? Is the message asking me to trust feelings over facts? These questions help separate emotional impact from reality. It is also helpful to consider motivation. Messages that focus heavily on urgency, secrecy, or hidden threats often aim to influence behavior rather than inform. They may try to encourage you to take action, make decisions, or change how you view certain people without giving you balanced information. Whenever there is pressure to believe something quickly, it is worth pausing to reassess. Another important point is that trust in real relationships is built through consistency and direct interaction. The people in your life are known through their actions over time, not through isolated stories or second-hand interpretations. When uncertainty arises, the most constructive step is not to assume hidden intentions, but to communicate openly. Asking questions directly to the people involved, when appropriate, is far more reliable than relying on external narratives that cannot be verified. Fear-based messaging often loses its power when examined calmly. When you strip away the dramatic language, what remains is usually vague or unprovable. Phrases like secret plans, hidden messages, or Kumma Krut, unseen intentions, are not evidence. They are storytelling tools. They are designed to create images in your mind rather than provide concrete proof. It is also worth remembering that the mind tends to fill gaps when information is incomplete. If a message suggests something serious but does not provide clear, verifiable details, the imagination naturally tries to complete the story. This is where misunderstandings can grow. What begins as uncertainty can turn into suspicion simply because the mind is trying to make sense of incomplete information. A grounded approach is to separate what is known from what is assumed. Known facts are things you can confirm independently. Assumptions are interpretations built on emotion or suggestion. Keeping these two categories distinct helps prevent confusion and reduces unnecessary stress. When faced with emotionally intense messages, it is also useful to observe how they make you feel. If something immediately creates anxiety, fear, or a sense of urgency without clear evidence, that emotional reaction itself is a signal to slow down. It does not mean the content is true. It means your attention is being strongly engaged. Recognizing this allows you to regain control over your response. Another healthy practice is to seek perspective from neutral sources. Speaking with someone you trust who is not involved in the situation can help bring balance. Often, an outside perspective can quickly identify whether something is reasonable or exaggerated. This is not about dismissing your concerns, but about ensuring they are grounded in reality. It is also important to avoid isolating yourself within a single narrative. When a message is powerful, it can become the only explanation your mind keeps returning to. But reality is usually more complex and far less dramatic. Most people are focused on their own lives, routines, and responsibilities. The idea that multiple individuals are secretly coordinating detailed plans often does not align with how everyday life actually works. Emotional safety comes from clarity, not confusion. When information increases stress without offering verifiable truth, it is a sign to step back and reassess. You are not required to accept every message at face value, especially when it involves claims that cannot be independently confirmed. In situations where communication feels overwhelming or unsettling, grounding techniques can help. Focusing on physical surroundings, taking time away from the message, and returning to it later with a calmer mindset often changes how it is perceived. What once felt urgent may appear much less significant when viewed without emotional intensity. It is also useful to remember that responsible communication respects your ability to think independently. It does not attempt to override your judgment or replace it with fear. Any message that encourages dependency on itself as the only source of truth should be treated carefully. Healthy information empowers you. It does not pressure you. Over time, developing the habit of critical thinking strengthens your ability to recognize when something is unbalanced or emotionally manipulative. This does not mean becoming cynical or distrustful of everything, but rather learning to evaluate information with patience and clarity. It is a skill that helps you navigate both digital and real-world interactions more safely. At the core of it, the most important thing is maintaining trust in your own ability to observe, reflect, and decide. You do not need to rush into conclusions based on dramatic language or unseen claims. You are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to seek evidence before forming beliefs. Life becomes much clearer when decisions are based on what can be seen, understood, and verified, rather than on fear or suggestion. Messages that try to pull you into uncertainty lose their influence when met with calm reasoning, and in that calm space, you regain control over how you interpret the world around you. In the end, clarity is always more reliable than urgency. Understanding grows from patience, not pressure, and the more you practice stepping back from emotionally charged narratives, the easier it becomes to see situations for what they truly are, often simpler, less dramatic, and far more manageable than they initially appear. That person walking in at the perfect moment wasn't a coincidence. It was divine intervention, a quiet but powerful move to protect you. I don't always need thunder or lightning to stop your enemies, my child. Sometimes, it's the smallest things, a forgotten phone, a curious glance, a heart brave enough to act, that shift the course of your life. Their plan is detailed, yes. They've chosen a time, tomorrow, and a place where they intend to strike. They've spoken of your next steps, the opportunities you're about to seize, and they want to derail it all. They think they're clever, hiding behind smiles and kind words while plotting in secret. They think their messages are safe, their intentions hidden. But no secret is hidden from heaven. No plan escapes my sight. Let me tell you something about how I work, my child. I don't always need storms or loud miracles to protect you. Sometimes, I use the ordinary to create the extraordinary. I've done this before, time and time again. I used a young boy with a sling to bring down a giant. I placed a woman in a king's court to save her people from destruction. I guided a man through a lion's den and kept him safe. And now, I've placed someone in the right place, at the right time, with the right heart, to protect you. Right now, your enemies think they're in control. They think their plan is airtight, their words untouchable. But they don't know I've already seen it. They don't know I've already set things in motion to scatter their schemes like dust in the wind. The person who found those chats wasn't just a bystander. They were my instrument, my way of pulling back the curtain on their deception. So what's in those messages? They're not just words of jealousy or petty gossip. They're a calculated plan to sabotage you. They've talked about your plans, your dreams, the doors that are about to open for you. They know you're close to a breakthrough, financial, personal, spiritual, and they want to stop it before it begins. They've named a time, tomorrow, and a place where they intend to act. They think they can dim your light, but they're wrong. I'm not just exposing them to warn you. I'm exposing them to prepare you. This isn't just about their failure. It's about your victory. What they meant to break you will only make you stronger. What they plan to steal from you will only push you closer to your purpose. I'm turning their schemes upside down, and you will rise above it all. My child, you've been through so much already. I've seen the nights you cried alone, the days you carried burdens no one else could see. I've watched you keep going, even when it felt impossible. You've stayed faithful, even when the world seemed against you. You've carried pain in silence, forced smiles through heartbreak, and trusted me when everything told you to give up. And I want you to know this. Your pain hasn't been for nothing. Your struggles aren't the end of your story. I'm working in the quiet places of your life, rebuilding what's been broken, strengthening what's been weakened. I'm shaping you, not just for survival, but for triumph. The betrayal you're facing now is just a shadow, a fleeting moment that cannot stop what I've planned for you. Those two people, the one smiling in your face while plotting behind your back, they don't see the full picture. They don't know the power that surrounds you, the divine protection that covers you. They don't understand that every step you take is guided. Every move you make is watched over. Their plans will crumble, not because you fight them, but because I'm fighting for you. I'm your shield, your defender, your guide. You don't need to figure out every detail or solve every problem. That's my job. Your job is to stay steady, to keep your heart open, to trust that I'm moving, even when you can't see it. Tomorrow, when their plan is set to unfold, you won't be caught off guard. You're ready, because I've made you ready. The person who found those chats, the one who prayed for you, they're part of my plan too. They're proof that I've placed people around you, not just to watch, but to act, to stand in the gap for you when you need it most. And here's what's coming next, my child. Their betrayal won't just be exposed, it will backfire. The very thing they meant to use against you will become the stepping stone to your next level. I'm turning their evil into your elevation. I'm taking their schemes and using them to push you closer to your destiny. What they meant for harm, I'm turning into your breakthrough. You don't need to fear the time or the place they've chosen. I've already seen it, and I've already prepared a way through. You don't need to fight with anger or plot your own revenge. Your strength is in your faith. Your power is in your trust. I'm your protector, your guide, your strength. My child, you are not what they say you are. You are not the sum of their lies or the target of their schemes. You are mine, chosen, loved, and destined for greatness. I've placed a calling on your life that no one can take away. I've set a path before you that no enemy can block. They may try to stop you, but they will fail, because I am with you. So rise up, not in fear, but in confidence, not in anger, but in peace. You are not alone, and you never will be. I'm with you, closer than your next breath, stronger than any storm. I've seen the chats, I know the plan, and I've already set your victory in motion. But let me take you deeper, my child, because this moment is about more than just surviving their betrayal. It's about understanding who you are in my eyes. You're not a victim, not a pawn in their game. You're a warrior, clothed in strength, wrapped in my love. You're a light that cannot be dimmed, a purpose that cannot be shaken. Those messages, as dark as they are, revealed something else, something they didn't expect. They showed how much you matter, how much your future threatens their plans. They see the blessings coming your way, the elevation I've prepared for you, and it unsettles them. They see the favor on your life, the doors I'm opening, and they want to stop it. But they can't. No one can stop what I've ordained. Let me tell you more about those chats. They didn't just mention your name. They described your breakthrough in detail. They spoke of the opportunities you're about to step into, the financial blessings, the personal victories, the spiritual growth. They know you're on the edge of something big, and they want to cut it off before it can grow. They've planned to act tomorrow, at a specific time, in a specific place, with a specific strategy. But I've already seen it, and I've already countered it. The person who found those messages didn't just act out of curiosity, they acted out of love. They saw your name and knew you deserve protection. They didn't hesitate, didn't waver. They took those screenshots, captured every word, and brought it to me, and I heard them. I always hear the cries of those who call out for justice, for protection, for you. This moment, my child, is a turning point. It's not just about stopping their plan, it's about launching you into what's next. I'm using this betrayal to show you your strength, to remind you of your purpose. There are moments in life when everything feels heavier than usual, when uncertainty seems louder than clarity, and when the mind tries to connect meaning to things it does not fully understand yet. In those moments, it can feel as though life is speaking in hidden signals, but often what is really happening is simpler and more human. You are moving through a period where emotions are active, awareness is expanding, and your inner world is trying to make sense of experiences that feel personal and important. Growth does not always arrive with clarity attached to it. Sometimes it begins in confusion, and slowly, through reflection, it becomes understanding. When people go through emotionally intense phases, especially involving trust, relationships, or expectations, the mind naturally searches for patterns. It tries to create order from discomfort, but not every feeling points to an external action or hidden intention. Sometimes what feels like tension outside is actually an internal need for stability, reassurance, or grounding. The healthiest response in these moments is not to assume hidden forces at work, but to return gently to what is known, what is real, and what is directly within your control, your thoughts, your choices, and your responses. There is also something deeply important about learning to hold emotional experiences without letting them define your entire perception of reality. Pain, disappointment, or confusion can feel consuming in the moment, but they are states, not identities. They move through you, they do not become you. When you begin to separate your worth from temporary emotional states, something powerful happens. You start to see yourself more clearly, without distortion from fear or assumption. You begin to understand that your value is not determined by external validation or rejection, but by your own steady presence within your life. In this process, it becomes essential to slow down the need for immediate meaning. The mind often wants answers quickly, especially when emotions are strong. But clarity that lasts is never rushed. It develops when you allow space between reaction and response. In that space, you begin to notice that not every thought needs to be followed, and not every interpretation needs to be believed. Some thoughts are simply reflections of stress, memory, or imagination trying to resolve uncertainty. Learning to observe them without attaching to them is a form of emotional maturity that strengthens over time. As you move through challenging emotional landscapes, it is also important to reconnect with your own foundation. That foundation is built from your values, your experiences, and the way you choose to treat yourself when things feel unstable. When external circumstances feel unclear, returning to internal grounding helps restore balance. This means focusing on actions that support your well-being, rest, clarity in communication, honest reflection, and environments that bring calm rather than confusion. Stability is not found in controlling everything outside, but in strengthening what is within. Another important part of emotional growth is understanding that relationships and connections are healthiest when built on clarity rather than interpretation. When communication is unclear, the mind often fills gaps with assumptions, but assumptions rarely lead to peace. Instead, they tend to increase emotional weight. A more balanced approach is to allow things to be expressed directly, and when they are not, to accept that uncertainty does not require immediate resolution. Some answers unfold naturally with time, without force or urgency. At the same time, it is valuable to remember that not every emotional story is meant to be analyzed in depth. Some experiences are meant to be felt, processed, and released rather than endlessly interpreted. When you allow yourself to step back from over-analysis, you create space for emotional recovery. This does not mean ignoring your feelings, but rather holding them gently without letting them take control of your entire perspective. Emotional awareness is healthiest when it is paired with emotional boundaries. There is also strength in recognizing your own resilience. Even in moments where you feel uncertain, you are still here, still thinking, still reflecting, still moving forward in some way. That continuity matters. It shows that you are capable of enduring emotional complexity without losing your sense of self. Resilience is not about never feeling shaken, it is about returning to yourself after feeling shaken. Each time you do that, your inner stability becomes stronger. As clarity gradually builds, you may notice that what once felt overwhelming begins to feel more manageable. This is not because everything outside has changed, but because your relationship with your thoughts has changed. You begin to respond rather than react. You begin to observe rather than absorb. You begin to choose what deserves your attention, instead of giving attention to everything that arises. This shift is subtle, but it transforms how you experience life. It is also important to allow yourself compassion during this process. Growth is not linear, and understanding yourself takes time. There will be moments of doubt, moments of emotional intensity, and moments where you feel unsure of what something means. These moments do not represent failure, they represent humanity. What matters is not avoiding these moments, but learning how to move through them without losing your grounding. As you continue developing emotional clarity, your sense of self becomes less dependent on external narratives. You begin to trust your own perception more steadily, while also remaining open to revising it when new information appears. This balance between confidence and openness is what creates true emotional intelligence. It allows you to remain steady without becoming rigid and flexible without becoming lost. Over time, you may also notice that your priorities shift. What once felt urgent may no longer feel as significant. What once caused emotional turbulence may begin to feel quieter in your mind. This is a natural result of internal alignment. When your inner world becomes more organized, your outer reactions become more calm. You begin to value peace over intensity, clarity over speculation, and stability over emotional extremes. In this state of growing awareness, it becomes easier to recognize that you are not defined by temporary experiences. You are not defined by moments of uncertainty or by the emotions that pass through you. You are defined by your ability to reflect, to learn, and to continue moving forward with greater understanding than before. Every experience, whether comfortable or challenging, contributes to that process of becoming more self-aware and grounded. Ultimately, the most important truth to hold on to is that your mind does not need to solve everything at once. Life is not a puzzle that must be completed immediately. It is an ongoing experience that unfolds step by step. When you allow yourself to move at that natural pace, without forcing conclusions or attaching meaning prematurely, you give yourself the space to grow in a healthier, more balanced way. And as you continue forward, what you begin to notice is not a dramatic shift in external circumstances, but a quieter, deeper shift within yourself. A sense of steadiness begins to replace urgency, a sense of clarity begins to replace confusion, and a sense of trust in your own ability to navigate life begins to replace doubt. This is not something that happens all at once, but something that builds gradually through patience, reflection, and self-awareness. In the end, what you are truly developing is not just understanding of situations, but understanding of yourself, and that is the foundation that carries you through every season, uncertain or clear, heavy or light. When you remain connected to that inner foundation, you do not need to chase meaning or force certainty. You begin to live from a place where clarity unfolds naturally, and where your own presence becomes the strongest anchor you have.